Well, it's time for us to get into the news review segment. And before we do that, because my gentlemen are already seated and we're about to get into a big conversation, but the stage is set for the landmark 5th edition of the Ghana FinTech Awards 2026, scheduled to take place on Saturday, March 28th, 2026, at the Underbridge Annex, East Legon, Accra, at 5:30 p.m. with a theme from awareness to action, building a cyber-secure fintech landscape in Ghana. Now, this year's event promises to be the most significant gathering of the nation's financial technology leaders and innovators. For sponsorship opportunities, seat reservations, or media accreditation for the 28th of March 2026, please contact Christina. Her number is 059 8385685. That is 059 8385685. Or email Christina at GhanaFinTechAwards.org. Sorry about that. Now, your money deserves the safest home. With Telecel Cash, you're protected every step of the way. No risks, no worries, no long stories, just peace of mind. Dial star 110 hash or download the Telecel Play app now for safe, secure transaction. Telecel Cash, the safer choice. Send it, keke. Well, my gentlemen are already seated here. We're about to get into our national political news trends on YouTube segments. And Jesse Jakes from the MPP side. He is the MPP's communications team member. And Richard Kumado, security consultant. And of course, Prince Henry Agoha, NDC communications team member. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
How are we doing?
We're good by the
Good,
grace
good?
of God.
Your party is in power. You have to have energy. Your party is in power, or the Iran war and since
No, all things are good. All things
palpitations.
are good. All things are good.
You're not hearing.
No,
He
smooth
needs to be
sailing.
cool because
Smooth
he's
sailing.
enjoying. I mean,
Hey,
he needs to be cool
The
because
whole
he's
country is
enjoying.
enjoying, I believe.
the whole country is enjoying this.
It's a lie.
But then there's this big conversation that doesn't look like everybody in the country is enjoying. And so that's what we're going to start with. I don't know if we have our security analyst online, but if he does join us, he's joining us via Zoom. But the big conversation now in Ghana is the recruitment for the security jobs. So huge competition for security jobs, over 400,000 applicants, only 5,000 slots available, and that is where I want us to commence our conversation from. The fact that we're in 2026, and I want to make it a more simpler conversation for all of us to have. Yeah. We're in 2026, where technology is available, and we're supposed to be utilizing the technology that is available. However, we have decided to open a portal that is taking beyond what we need, and so even if we didn't know before, based off from the conversations that we're having so far, couldn't we just skew them? Because I know so for instance, there's a platform called Eventbrite, right? Where you can put a cap on the number of people you are admitting for an event. So why couldn't we cap the numbers on the site? There's also the conversation that it's a revenue generation, mechanism for the security sector. And so it's not the first time it's happened. That's how, the sector generates income. That is also an allegation or a conversation that is ongoing. What is really the problem, and why can't we just solve this issue once and for all? There's also the fact that this entire thing is deep-rooted in the fact that this country is still dealing with unemployment. So I'm going to have you start with it.
All right. Once again, good morning to yourself and me. Good morning. And good morning to all our lovely viewers this morning.
Can you speak up for me, please?
All right. When it comes to the issue of the recruitment into the security services, I find it not surprising, being that in the past couple of years, there's been no such major activity when it comes to recruitment into the security agencies. There's been some sort of blockade on some of these recruitments. And even under the previous administration, what we saw a lot of backdoor channeling, where even before the public advertisement comes out, there are already people who have been selected into some of these agencies. We've seen a lot of protocol services. We've seen people in power, honorable members of parliament, speak about these things openly, even in vetting situations. So we know that there are protocol services out there that has worked for years. But what we've seen this year has been a free, fair process for all Ghanaians. I think that's what's led to the high number of people. And getting into the number of people who have applied as well, I know for a fact that the 400,000 people are not all unemployed people. I know personal friends of mine who are teachers, employed by GES, who have applied into the immigration services, some of them into the police services.
Why?
Yeah, so, well, some say better services or better...
or rather job security.
Yeah, exactly, job security. And sometimes too, it goes into a matter of preference. Some people maybe they wanted it, it was not available at the time, and then they went for other things. So it tells us one or two things. But one thing I'd like to highlight is this. Look, there's only the Minister for Interior, Honorable Muntaka, has highlighted that despite the fact that there's only room for 5,000 in this current phase, the next phase we will see the number go up a bit, and they would continue from the same people who have applied. The process won't restart, which is a very good encouragement. It tells us that, look, they are not just after the money. The same people who have applied will continue if the next phase comes on, which is a very good initiative. It tells us that the intentions of the government is in the right place. 400,000 youth. It's alarming. It tells us if not only, it does not only go to the issue of job security, it also goes to the issue of unemployment, as I stated earlier, which tells us the state, the country was in for 8 years. It tells these numbers are people who were unemployed for the previous years and getting into the new arrangement with the new government, and then we see the huge number of people applying to security agencies. It's quite overwhelming. But one thing I want to encourage the young people, there's this notion out there that it's an NDC government. The NDC people are supposed to be chosen and putting into some of this.
Some people have openly talked about it, including Honorable Muntaka. He touched on it. He did say that. So NDC people who are saying that they haven't been brought in, I think addressing and still focusing on the fact that party people who are angry because they haven't been admitted into the force is very I think it's very worrying.
I think overall, look, he's a party person. He was addressing concerns by party people. He was telling them, look.
And that was a platform he chose to do that on.
No, look, he was kind of highlighting the fact that, look, he's for everyone. And the party people who are agitated need to find a ground of understanding here. Because, look, we cannot become what we criticized. We criticized the NPP government for some of these same things. And when we are in power, we cannot do the same thing. We cannot just open recruitment and it will only be for people in the NDC. Exactly. It's not. It wouldn't be fair, actually, to the people of Ghana. So what he has highlighted, or what he has stated clearly, is that, look, the government is for the people of Ghana. The recruitment services is for the entire population of Ghana. So it's not just for the NDC. But once again, the government has done very well since it's come into power to create opportunities for the young people. These are things we should highlight. The 1 million coders opportunity this year is targeted to train 400,000 more young people. 400,000 people have applied. The 1 million coders will train 400,000 people this year. The National Apprenticeship Program will take in 100,000 more young people. It goes into the impact, going down into the rural areas. In my district, way back in Ketu North, where there's a skills and apprenticeship program being run by the Member of Parliament, training young people to become skilled artisans and skilled personnel. It tells you that the states, look, we are coming in from, I would say, the wilderness. We are coming in from 8 years of mismanagement, 8 years of corruption, 8 years of indebtedness, 8 years of no jobs into this new age. And it's going to take some time for everyone to settle. And as you can see, the numbers are very huge. But I believe that this government has its agenda, has its policies in the right place. And I can see that we are heading towards the right direction.
All right. Jesse.
Yeah, Mimi, good morning. Let me say a very good morning to Honorable John Darko. He is the MP for the good people of Swami constituency. Mimi, it's evident that Ghanaians are beginning to see the raw colors of the NDC. Yeah. In fact, this is the first government in the history of our nation to expropriate people's hard-earned money in the name of giving them jobs. As a matter of fact, this is the biggest scam we have experienced under this administration. And I am not surprised, Mimi, by the unprecedented 500,000 applicants. Because one, the build up to the 2024 elections, the NDC made Ghanaians understand that when they are voted into power, they would employ a lot of Ghanaians, especially in the security services. Today, after they have voted for you guys into office, you are now telling them that because of the IMF conditionalities, you can't employ more than 5,000 people. Were they not in this country when Ghana signed up for the IMF conditionalities? So what are they talking about? Now they have even worsened the situation by increasing the upper age limit from 25 years to 35 years. You know, when you are making your application, there is a requirement for age. And so for over the years, the age bracket was between 18 and 25 years. Now when they took over office, they have increased the upper age limit to 35 years. Now when you do this, you are trying to tell the ordinary Ghanaian that you have a lot of space within the security service. That's why you have increased the upper age limit. And so they'll go on and apply. Now, in their own manifesto, the so-called 24-hour economy, Mimi, promised to employ a lot of people in the security service. And Mimi, with your permission, I may read. In their own manifesto, page 55, chapter 2, the 24-hour economy policy, same job, 3 shifts, 3 people. The 24-hour economy is a deliberate policy intervention by the incoming NDC administration to stimulate economic growth by creating an enabling environment for businesses and public institutions to operate 24/7 in 3 shifts of 8 hours each. The 24-hour economy policy promises increased employment opportunities, productivity, and an enhanced access to public services and revenue. The implementation of the 24-hour economy policy will be supported by strategic investment in infrastructure, security, energy, among others. Key sectors of the 24-hour economy policy. The 24-hour economy will focus on selected public institutions with large customer base, such as Port and Harbour, Customs, Passport Office, DVLA. It will focus primarily on agro-processing, manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, construction, financial services, extractive industries, sanitation and waste management, hospitality industry, retail centers, transportation services, health services, and security services. And so if you promise the Ghanaian youth that you are going to run a 3 shift of 8 hours for 3 people in the security service, and then you go on to increase the upper limit age from 25 to 35 years, the unemployed Ghanaian is entitled to assume that you have a lot of space within the security service to employ a lot of people. So this NDC administration, Mimi, has no justification for the excruciating hardship they have ejaculated on Ghanaians. My second point, we are seeing these huge numbers trying to enter the security service because this NDC administration has not created a single job for the unemployed Ghanaian. They always talk about the 24-hour economy. I am saying it on facts, Mimi, and let the records reflect that the 24-hour economy has not created a single job for the unemployed Ghanaian. In any case, it doesn't even make sense to create an avenue, a secretariat, or an authority for a 24-hour economy. When your systems are working and the demand is there, no one will tell you to add more labor force to meet your daily, weekly, and monthly demand. My third point, the Minister of Interior, Honorable Muntaka, Mimi, knew very well that no matter what, at the end of the day, they will only have space for 5,000 people. And so why did he allow over 500,000 poor unemployed Ghanaians,
let's say with the numbers that are like 400,000, they see,
whatever, to apply for a job that seeks to accommodate only 5,000 people?
if we wanted to exceed that 5,000 number, it shouldn't be as big as 400,000. That's my concern.
Exactly my point.
How would he have known the number of people who have
And
applied?
please, I'm making my point.
The platform is
Applied.
open
Please,
to
I'm
all.
making my point. I'm not done. Please, I'm
There's
making
a
my
system. Oh, I'm coming.
yeah.
There's a system that you go through to apply.
Yes.
It's not even in person. It's online, isn't
Yes.
it?
Yes, it's online.
Yes.
So that online portal closes at 6,000. Period.
Exactly.
Yeah, but how?
Shuts down at 6,000.
Who is shut out then? How
No,
is
no,
it
no,
fair
no. Okay,
to
so
the
let
Ghanaian?
me break it down for you how these things work. And I
Okay.
gave an example, which is why I don't want anybody to think that I don't know what I'm talking about. Right now in 2026, there are so many softwares that we use in advancing what we had in the past. So I gave you an example of an events site called Eventbrite. So you would say that you put a cap on the number. I want to only admit 10 people to my event.
Exactly.
Once it exceeds 10, it will prompt you, the operator, that we've gotten to 10. Would you want to increase the number?
Yes.
So if in the system now we don't have that, you could have inculcated that.
He spoke to that. And he spoke to look. Even if he had done that, what would be the perception of the average Ghanaian?
What do you care about? That young people will spend the money they don't have to apply for a job that doesn't exist, or you will leave them to spend the little money they have on whatever they could manage with at the time. Because letting these children, and facts on the ground are that these young people applied some of them applied more than once.
Yes.
So even if the forms were 100 Ghana cedis, if he applies more than once and it was only twice, that's 200 Ghana cedis. Do you know what 200 cedis could have done for that young person at the time? Money they don't have.
Yeah, but what we are suggesting here, a cap, would it be fair to a process that is being called a public recruitment exercise when we are capping it and
I think it is very heartbreaking that we're having the conversation this way. It is very heartbreaking. So I'm asking again, and I would have you have your take. Would we rather have what we are dealing with, young people having hopes that don't exist, when you know very well how many people you're going to employ? So I said, I'm even adding 1,000 more people, just because, maybe the qualities of people that you would need might fall in the extra 1,000. So say you open a portal that only admits 6,000 people, because you're already looking for only 5,000 anyway. So you put a cap on that, and then you keep it as 6,000. So once the portal receives 6,001 people, it shuts down. Nobody else can apply. Nobody else is allowed to pay any sort of money. They can keep their money and look for somewhere else. Because, there are certain sectors that also need help. There are the doctors, there are the nurses. The nurses are also overflowing. Yeah. So please, whilst you're thinking about that, Jesse, please have your take.
So, you've said it all. So, this is a clear case of extortion, because you disqualify people without any tangible justification, and then the minister continues to organize press conferences. Look, this is a daylight robbery method against poor unemployed Ghanaians. And my fourth point, and I think I'll end on that one, I do not recommend using technology for the aptitude test. I do not. Because we live in a country and we have a minister for communication and digital innovation who is being paid by taxpayers' money and has decided not to extend internet services to some of these deprived rural areas. Meaning, even in areas with internet access cannot be relied on because the internet connection interrupts intermittently. And so I do not recommend. And you shouldn't even come up with a policy that will advantage the minority and disadvantage the majority. It shouldn't come up in the first place. And maybe aside that, the NDC grassroots, right, are not happy with the current NDC administration. I might say this. They are not happy with the current NDC administration.
They say they are happy.
They say they are not happy. From what I've seen, they are not happy.
They say they are happy. They are happy.
I beg, please. They are not happy. They are not happy because their own appointees, someone like Malik Basentali, someone quoted him yesterday, that during the 2024 general elections, he was with this guy up and down. Even the guy carried canopies, some carried chairs, some carried speakers, some even went ahead to paint their faces. And today, and today, their party is in power, and it is their right to enjoy the goodies in this administration. They are denying them of of their benefits. And so look, this scam recruitment exercise basically falls on Ghanaians. But the majority of the people suffering is their own people. The people that voted for them. The people that said Eyezu, Eyeza are now suffering in their own administration.
Which means that Ghana is for everybody. It's not for only people.
No, but I mean, when I support you in your whatever election, that's a fact.
Then Jesse,
I understand that Ghana is for everyone.
Yes.
But you can't deny me after I have helped you to get political power. That's a fact.
But that's your decision.
No, that's not my decision. That's the decision of I mean everybody. That's a fact.
Like the way you are supporting MPP now.
Exactly.
If MPP comes to power and they don't give you appointments, you go vex.
No, they will. They don't have any choice. They will. And so I mean,
so it's a family and friends thing that you want them to continue.
It is not a family and friends thing.
You are telling them to continue the family and friends.
You should expect something from your party. Exactly.
The party said go and enable yourself and find job. That's what the party said.
But you promised them jobs.
Oh, the promise was to all Ghanaians.
The president is on record to promise his own party people that yes, NPP has packed majority of the security services with their people. And so when we have voted into power, we will also pack you in there. And now you have disappointed them. They are complaining. So it's high time.
They are complaining. They're there and their chairman will deal with it.
I'll end on this. The minister and the president must refund the monies back to these poor, unemployed Ghanaians. And if they fail to do so, I believe you've heard of it. If they fail to do so, there will be a demonstration against the minister, the ministry, and the presidency, because we can't continue like this. This is unacceptable. We can't accept this in a reset agenda.
I think the refund should be easy.
We can't accept this. They should refund their monies back to them. Thank you.
I agree with you.
Mimi, just to touch on some of the points he made earlier, he spoke about the age cap. He stated that the NDC increased the age cap, which I would like to disagree with.
Oh, but they did.
No, there were suggestions too.
Yes,
but
so they didn't.
In this current circle, the age cap wasn't increased, but there are certain rules within some of these security agencies that allow recruitment over certain ages. So there are age brackets for this recruitment. But in this current circle, the suggestion by the NDC bigwigs were for the general age limit to be increased, but it cannot be done now.
No, but it was
so,
did, Mimi. It was
no,
did.
it was not. It was not done.
It was.
It was
My
not
brother,
done.
it was.
If there can be confirmation.
Get me
it was.
a copy to say to get
yes,
that
but
fact.
for that part, it was not done in this cycle. And getting to the his issue on Malik Basentali, I'd like to.
Please, I'm not addressing NDC.
No.
I'm telling you, we're having and this is what I say all the time,
Yeah.
gentlemen. I say this all the time, that this platform specifically speaks to issues that pertain to the well-being of the youth.
Exactly.
Because we are the majority, but also happen to fall within the minority when it comes to being considered for conversations. So I said that we are specifically speaking to the recruitment issue,
yes.
where there are 400,000 youth out there who are supposed to have gone through a process that was meant for 5,000 people.
So I'm speaking
Whether
to that.
Malik Basentale,
Yes.
Malik Basentale employed his NDC people or didn't employ NDC. That is why Ese Duketia is on. Thank you, to. So people can go and address that in your party conference.
So I'm not speaking to him personally. I'm speaking to his role at the Youth Employment Agency.
He's doing a fantastic job.
Which prior to the recruitment, they had already enlisted 25,000 young people as assistants to various other police, immigration. So that as well had alleviated the pressure in the system way before the recruitment has come.
Has started,
The YEA in total, just in the couple of years that we've been in power, or just a couple of months, has already employed 86,000 young people. So that as well speaks to the intentions of this government when it comes to the young people.
So Malik Basentale is doing a fantastic job.
Yes, he's doing a very. That's what I'm trying to highlight. That he is doing.
Know, my people know, we have heard, we've seen, and so Malik Basentale is in good hands.
I'd want the
and
viewers.
these people, I'm saying, see, you have your chairman who is a listening chairman.
Yes.
Go and meet him. Uncovered 21.35 billion Ghana cedis suspicious, duplicated, and fictitious claims on state coffers, compelling a government pledge to prosecute all individuals involved in what is terms as a systematic plunder of the public purse. The amount is made up of 8.1 billion Ghana cedis outright rejection and 13.26 billion Ghana cedis that must be justified before payments can be affected. The disallowed amount was part of 68.7 billion submitted to the Ministry of Finance as unpaid interim payment certificates, invoices, and bank transfer advices (BTAs) are owned to contractors and suppliers. The government in July last year tasked the Ghana Audit Service in partnership with EY and PwC to verify and validate 68.7 billion Ghana cedis submitted to the Ministry of Finance in unpaid interim payment certificate, invoices, and bank transfer advices owned to contractors and suppliers. The outstanding IPCs and invoices amount 50.5 billion Ghana cedis, while outstanding bank PTAs amount to 18.3 billion. Presenting the findings of the Auditor's General Report on arrears and payables as of the end of 2024 to Parliament yesterday, the Deputy Minister of Finance, Thomas Nyako Ampem, revealed that 68.7 billion Ghana cedis in claims submitted for verification. Only 45.4 billion was deemed valid for payment. And I had this conversation somewhere last week that there's still findings in these claims. Yeah. I'm going to start with you.
Yeah. Mimi, I think it's quite unfortunate to see such happenings in our current administration. And, this is just a preliminary document. And so if you actually want to establish fraud, you will need a forensic audit on the report that was delivered to Parliament just last week. We in the MPP supports accountability and transparency. And so during parliamentary session last week, a public account committee hearing must be set up for some questions to be answered, because there are some, let's say, clauses within the reports that sorry to say, doesn't make sense to any well-meaning Ghanaians. And so the public account committee will actually bring some of the people who were responsible in the past administration to answer some of these things. Yeah. And I always said that we focus much on politicians, but there is a permanent government in this country called civil servants. They are the people that will do all these administrative process and then send the reports to their respective ministers. And so, yes, they are supposed to have an oversight of what the civil servants will do, but at some point in time, you might not get to know all these things unless maybe an auditor comes in and to verify some of these documents. And so we shouldn't blame our politicians or our ministers. Yes, we should also concentrate on our civil servant, because there are some of these things that they are supposed to answer. And even some of the commercial banks must come in to answer some of the questions, because how come someone can submit a bank account, an unvalidated bank account, and you go on to make transaction? It doesn't make sense. And it even goes contrary to the Banking Act, and it is even a criminal offense to do such things. And so I'm believing that the Public Account Committee will do a very great job, and I believe the chairman of the Public Account Committee, Honorable Abnao Sayasari, will do a very great job when they start going into the matters and in the reports. And I always say that we've taken this country for granted. I don't think any private institution will accept such documents. The moment the CEO receives such documents, he will start sacking some people even before he goes into the issues. The prima facie of this document tells you that there was an intent to commit crime or to, siphon some funds from this country. So, we should sometimes question our civil servants who are employed to undertake such activities, because we've always labeled our politicians as thieves. But in some scenarios, there might not be thieves as we see it. Yes, the civil servants are mostly in charge of all these things. And so we must go into the matter and hold whoever that is in charge accountable. And as former President Kufuor always says, that we should establish a special investigative team for some of these Auditor General reports that always comes up in every administration, so that we can, a bipartisan special investigation team to also go into the matter and bring out people who were responsible for these, intentional mistakes. And we must get our monies back.
Right.
It shouldn't be the normal politicization of our public institutions. Yeah.
I think for even this case, I'm thinking that the right thing has been done in the first place to not release funds yet, because again, it could have been that the finance minister could have just considered, okay, well, these are debts we're paying, and then we move on.
Yeah, and I must commend the MPP administration, because when they took over office from the NDC administration, there were about 51% funds that were not, distributed to some of these contractors and other people. And now we are seeing 11%, from 51% to 11%. So, there is some improvement in our public institutions when it comes to rectifying contractor documents and paying them to their respective contractors. There is some improvement, because from 51% of funds that were withheld after the Auditor General report to now 11%, I think it's fair enough to commend the MPP administration for ensuring that people will not take grant of the nation's funds. Yeah.
Indeed, and then I would say that then it's a collaborative effort.
Exactly.
Because they could have also, like I said earlier, gone ahead and made payments without investigating all these cases. So I think we're heading for good, guys. Let's keep it together.
All right.
I'll come to you, gentlemen.
All right. Mimi, one thing I've always stated is that when it comes to accountability, the NPP has shown no ounce of intention to be accountable to the Ghanaian people. As we speak, these findings have been made by the head of the finance ministry or by the Minister for Finance. And chief in defense or to account for this, would the right person to speak to some of these things, to speak to some of these processes, would also be the former finance minister. And as we speak, we still can't get him into his own country.
No, but he's there.
He's not in this country. The former finance minister is not in this country.
But I can try him in absentia.
Yeah, but no, I'm not talking about a trial here.
We're not going
So
to do finance minister case.
No, but Mimi, he said he's not available.
As at this morning,
but the man is there.
his lawyers are saying that he's actually.
But he's entitled to the U.S. citizenship. He's entitled to it.
Yes, but
he's entitled to the U.S.
when it comes to the issue of accountability, this is not about trial or about criminality. Accounting to the Ghanaian people. You gave me 10 Ghana cedis. I left you 2 Ghana cedis. You talk to the people. These are people who voted for your government. And for 8 years, we trusted you. At least you owe them that level of respect to be in this country and sort of speak to some of these issues. Look, I always say that if the finance minister could just, for example, on a show like this, give you 1 hour. I saw your interview. I know your interview prowess. I saw one with the MPP media man. I've forgotten his name. If the finance minister could give you
Media
1
man.
hour, he does a podcast. I've forgotten his name.
Podcast?
Yes, he's not in the country anymore. You had a very
you had
a very viral moment with him. Yes. So if he could give you just 1 hour to speak to some of these financial issues, I believe the Ghanaian people his name would be given a bit of rest. But any slight issue when it comes to mismanagement, we go back to Ken Oferiatta, because he was head of finance in this country. And when it comes to issues like this issue is coming from the Ministry of Finance. Debt is handled by the Minister of Finance. Just the accountability. We're not talking about trial. That is his own issue. That's the issue for the state OSP, Attorney General, to handle with. We just want to hear from this man. Come to this country, speak to the people. No, clear 1 or 2 issues and all. But getting back into the issue of accountability again, I think that, as my brother rightfully said, we need investigations done. We need people tried for some of these errors that have some of these criminal intents that has been disguised as errors. Because clearly, sometimes when you read some of these things, you know that clearly you can see that. So people are trying to take out money, or people have tried to steal money from the state, or successfully stolen money from the state. We need people tried. We need people questioned for some of this amount. It doesn't matter the amount.
Yeah.
It's now edging towards the billion. I've seen my brother trying to just oppose 50% to 11%, but it's a huge amount of money that could do a lot for this country. And look, I was reading recently when President Mahama was speaking at the State of Nation address, 600 million cedis has been recovered by UOKU. Just 600 in just a matter of a year or so. So far, not all investigation has been concluded. 600 million has been recovered already. It tells you the amount of money. Look, if you get into this, 8 years is a long time to take a lot. So it tells you that we need processes, we need systems to investigate these things properly. Let's get the people who are stealing the money. Let's get them prosecuted. Let's get them to pay penance for whatever they've done. And let the state recover some of this
and then they'll come back to you and tell you that you people came in and cleared your people who were also in court. And you said they should pay some amount and move on with the rest that they are owing. It's not them that will tell you. I'm telling you what they will tell you. When Jesse comes to tell me that, I didn't tell you. Well, so whilst we are collecting, let's know that every single individual that has been seen in a corruption or corruption-related activity should be held accountable. And that's what we're asking for. But gentlemen, thank you so much for coming. Yeah. This has been a fantastic morning. At least you didn't kill each other. I'm glad you didn't. Jesse Jakes is MPP Communications team member, and Prince Henry Agoha, NDC Communications team member. Thank you so much, gentlemen. I'll see you again next week. Now, to you out there, I hope you're learning and the conversation continues online. We're coming back here right after this for Events Guide. We'll be right back.